Hello, welcome to Fix My List. It's the weekly show where we take lists and we leave them exactly as we found them.
Yes, this is where we review some lists sent in by the wonderful members of our community. And, well, I think you got it wrong, Jack. I think we're actually fixing those lists today.
Oh, yeah, no, that makes a lot more sense, I'll be honest with you.
Absolutely. So, here we are. We're today going to be focusing on fixing 3 lists for Warhammer 40,000 from the Imperium factions. We like to cycle out the factions every week, so if you're watching this and maybe the Dark Gods have gotten a claw in your soul, don't worry, there will be an episode for you in the next couple weeks. We cycle all the way through it.
Yep, and something to note is that because Imperium is rather diverse, unlike the actual Imperium, because of that, Space Marines is its own separate video. So Space Marines, all the Space Marine lists, they are going to be next week. Sorry, Ivan, Inceptors are not going to be anywhere to be seen in these, but check back next week.
Absolutely. You know, you said Space Marines, but it's possible that there's even some power armor sneaking into this one.
There's a little bit, there's a skosh of power armor. In fact, there are some models you might even consider to be Astartes of some description.
I would.
Yes.
Just the worst kind.
All right. So before we head over to our first list, I want to talk about our €2 super chat from Red Rum. He says, I see it's handsome shirt day at the Art of War HQ.
It's always handsome shirt day when Jack's rocking the Hawaiian.
I gotta show up and show out, man, you know?
Absolutely. So if you're watching this video, if you like our content, please make sure that you like the video, share it with your friends, leave a comment, compliment Jack's shirt. Tell us what you think about the lists. Maybe even subscribe to the channel, that way you get notified every time we go live, because we do go live quite often on YouTube. But either way, we appreciate all of your support, and if you want to see your list on an upcoming Fix My List, it's very simple. All you have to do is find your way into the Art of War Discord. You can do that by becoming a member of this channel or by signing up for a wonderful war room.
That's right. And if you're wondering where do I go to sign up for the War Room, you go down into the link below. We got it's the warroom.vhx.tv, but we know that's a bit of a mouthful, so it's down there in the description. There is a 3-day free trial if you click the link, and you can post your list up. You can look at all of our master classes, all of our strategy sessions, everything we've done, state of the factions for all of the armies. So you can check all of that out and see what we're about. Post up your list, get it fixed, maybe?
Maybe.
All
right. Well, let's go ahead and dive right into that first Imperium list, Jack.
Boop, boop.
All right, Astra Militarum is up first, so I'll go ahead and read this off. And we've got Lord Solar Leontis, our wonderful warlord, a platoon command squad, a tank commander with Grand Strategist, although it doesn't look like it paid for Grand Strategist.
It did, that was
yeah, that'll make it 220, no big deal. Ursula Creed, who I love, 20 strong Death Corps of Krieg unit, then 10 regular infantry, 2 units of 5 Tempestus Scions, 2 units of 10 Kazarkin, 1 Chimera, a Luminous Exterminator, 2 Rogaldorans, and 2 Basilisks.
All right, so I'm just checking. That's right. I'm checking to see if Alice has any comments here. It says guard all-rounder and no notes.
No notes. All right, so let's take a look at what's actually here in this list. So this list is leaning more into the good tank stuff than normal, indirect heavy guard, which I think can totally work. I like the a couple of the inclusions here a lot. That Luminous Exterminator picks a thing that it's shot at and gives the army a +1 AP against it, which you'll notice, hang on, that's a stratagem, and yes, you're right, it is.
And then it's a stratagem you can use twice, right?
If you really wanted to, yeah.
Because you have Ursula Creed, and now you can stack +3 AP on a target, and heavy stubbers at AP3 are pretty nasty.
You can do lots of good stuff. You've got 2 relatively thick Rogaldorans. We've got that Exterminator. Decent amount of infantry running around the table. 2 Basilisks are the indirect. And then we've got a lot of the big bulky infantry with the 20-man Death Corps Krieg squad and an infantry squad with the Chimera. So lots of stuff in this list. Where we want to go with this is going to be interesting.
Yeah, let's start by identifying the stuff that I think doesn't really need to be here.
Fair enough.
What would you think is the first thing that comes to mind?
So what I'm actually none of the units in this list are bad. I think any of them could make their way into a competitive list. As a matter of fact, I've included literally every data sheet here in a list draft in the last month.
All in the same list?
Not all in the same list, because I think the balance is wrong.
Yes. So what's the problem?
The problem I see is that this list, I think, is going to struggle to really play the midboard. You've got good shooting in the midboard. Between the Rogal Dorns, the Exterminator, Kazakin, you got a little bit of Fire Support with Indirect. But nothing wants to be the first thing out other than Kazakin. And Kazakin are good. The Kazakin aren't the problem here. Let's just put it that way. But the Kazakin don't want to go alone onto an objective, get killed, and come back and be like, aha, you tricked me into me spending 2 CP to have my unit alive.
Yes.
But I didn't score primary in the process.
Damn.
And so I feel like there needs to be something a little more substantial to push so that the Rogal Dorns can cook. Or you don't have Rogal Dorns cooking if they're not going to be cooking. But I want to keep them.
I like Rogal Dorns actually quite a lot.
Yeah. It's a good thick data sheet. I'm not opposed to the Rogal Dorn being what stays, but if the Rogal Dorn is the thing leading, it's going to get tagged and fire its blast weapons at something wrong, and not the thing that's tagging it. And if it falls back, then you have lost 1/2 of your Rogal Dorn output immediately. God help you if 2 Rogal Dorns get tagged.
That would be bad. So what are we looking at? Are we looking like 10-man squads and chimeras? Are we looking Bulgrin? Are we looking Scout Sentinels? What are we looking at?
The things that I want to add, I like infantry and transports wherever I can get them. I like Bulgrin a lot. And Scout Sentinels are generally helpful just to make sure that you get the max efficiency out of your guns.
Yep. I like the fact that this list has a pair of basilisks. I could even see it going up to 3.
Yep.
The main game plan here is not that you're going to table your opponent from across the board. If you're trying to go with that plan, you're taking a bunch of Manticores and paying the increased points cost on that.
We've had different experiences with Manticores.
Yeah, well, sometimes they kill 4 Grey Knight Terminators and hurt Drago, and sometimes they don't kill a model.
You never know.
But if you're going to go for that, you're taking the Manticores, which means if you're taking Basilisks, you're not trying to table your opponent out of line of sight. What you're attempting to do is you're attempting to kill their small units that can try and play the game, and you're attempting to slow down their big units.
Yeah. So, things that I think are unnecessary here. I hate to say it, I think that Leman Russ Exterminator is unnecessary. It's good, but it doesn't really provide something you can't get elsewhere. Because whatever you're going to shoot at, you can always, to get the +1 AP, you can always have Creed drop a +1 AP on it. You could even spend 2 CP on a different unit, like, a Guard Squad or a Basilisk first before Creed has, the Command Squad do it or something.
Creed, orders the Command Squad's mortar to shoot at something and be like, them. Something you have to think about is that, if a Leman Russ Exterminator does less damage than other options, right?
Yes.
So if it shoots at a target and does less damage, but then enables something else to do more damage, you might have just been in a better position if you just shot them twice with real output.
And the Exterminator guns are fairly good, but they're not crazy.
It's 8 shots at 24 with twin linked or something?
I think it's 9-1-3 twin linked.
Yeah, and it's rapid fire. I think.
Yeah, it's 4 shots rapid fire, 48 inches, I believe.
It's not bad.
It's quite solid. It's occasionally insanely good.
Rarely, I would say.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it also can just benefit from the AP stacking along the way, right? Because the mortar goes in first, and it's AP 2 damage 3 twin linked. That actually kills some good things. Then a heavy bolter picks a target to get +1 AP for the...
I'd really want a Hellhound.
That's one of the places we could go, is a Hellhound is a cheaper way to get a debuff on something.
Yeah, well, because a Hellhound shoots you, then the Exterminator shoots you, you die.
Yeah, +1 AP and a Hellhound, you'd essentially do the same thing.
But the Exterminator then can benefit from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Exterminator's fine. What would you want to turn it into?
Really, I want more ability to push. Is mainly what I'm looking at, is I want more ability to push something. I want Bulgrin, and I want to cut things so that there is a line of Bulgrin in front of the Dorns. That's really what I want here.
How many Bulgrin are we thinking?
I want, honestly, at least... I want 12. I want a 6-man in front of each Rogal Dorn.
Okay, listen, I can get behind that. How much is a 6-man?
160. It's 320 points to get 12 Bulgrin into this list, which, all things considered, isn't that hard to fit.
No, it's not free, so we will need to find points for it. But let me slap those points in there and just.
I think we will be able to find it. is where I'm going with this.
So Bulgrin, yeah, 80 for 3. They are tough as nails. What war gear do you give them?
You give them, I mean, it's all the same cost, but you give them brute shields and Bulgrin Mauls.
But slab shields give them +1 wound, brute shields give them a 4 pinball?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's not equivalent.
Yeah, nope, you take the 4 pinball.
Take the 4 pinball.
That's definitely the one. So if we did that, so we're adding 320 points of Bulgrin, which is awesome. I feel like we're cutting the Exterminator. And then we theoretically need to find 140 more points, but we might make some other changes along the way, so let's just kind of take a second there. We still want this list playing the mission. I think we do want that tank commander in there, because between the tank commander and Lord Solar, we issue 5 orders to things that normally don't get them, which is vehicles and also Bulgrin.
So we've got Dorn, Bulgrin, and the tank commander.
And the tank commander, potentially.
So that's 5. I like that.
Yeah, like, it could just be that. And on turns where, you know, one of the main tanks isn't shooting or the Bulgrin don't need to move because they're happy where they're at, you just slap it onto a Basilisk and, or, you know, toss something downfield onto someone.
But I definitely don't think you need to go more than that. So are we thinking this Exterminator finds its way out of the list entirely?
I think it's just gone.
So it's not a Demolisher?
No. I like Demolishers. I feel like Demolishers have a different way of solving the Dorn problem, which is that they shoot their blast weapon straight down without taking a penalty. But
do they shoot every weapon without taking a penalty?
They shoot they shoot into their own combat without penalty,
which is pretty good.
There's nothing else in the combat.
Yes.
So if you tag a Demolisher and a Guard Squad, the Guard Squad has to fall back for the Demolisher to then boink. But that's usually not a problem.
Listen, man, I tagged a Demolisher and an Exterminator with a squad of Exalted 8-bound.
I know.
And it was very lucky that that Exterminator did not pass its fallback check, or I would have gotten wiped.
So, in this case, I think the Exterminator is gone. I think you could very easily take this list and make it multiple Demolishers instead of multiple Dorns. However, I want to keep it Dorns because, one, Dorns are dope. Those models are awesome. There's a nice hole to hold to buy, which is really convenient. And then, you know, I don't want to change the list. The Dorn hole is pretty great.
How do we need to make a little more space. How are we feeling about this 20 manner?
I feel like it needs to be 10.
All right. Are we taking 2 10-man squads?
No, I was just going to take 1 10-man Death Corps unit.
Okay, we're going to just,
I think that Chimera full of troops is gone because I think it's a little redundant with...
Bulgrin do the job?
Yeah, Bulgrin do the job and Kaiser can kind of do the job. And I think that those things are better at it.
Fair enough.
I don't mind the infantry squad. It's possible that I accidentally then add a Chimera and Catachan back into this list because I think that's just a good unit package to have.
It is. I'm a big fan.
But it's not in the list at the moment, I think. And yeah, these Bulgrin will be, we can add it. It's going to be clubs and mauls.
Clubs, mauls.
And then brute shields is the right shield.
War gear option. Bulgrin mauls.
Yep.
And brute shields.
That's what you want.
All right. Yeah, no, that seems good.
So we cut 10 Death Corps of Krieg, and we cut a 130 point Chimera troop package. So we just cut 130 and then 65 from the Death Corps squad, means we just cut 195. So we're currently plus 55 points.
No, we're not, because we also cut an Exterminator.
Yeah, but we also added the Bulgrin.
Yeah.
So we should be 1945?
Oh, yes, plus 35, plus 55. I thought you meant we were over by 55.
Like positive, like in the green.
No, we are in the green, yes.
Yep.
Let me tell you by how much. Yep, by 55 points.
It's that SAT math.
That's right.
That's the kind I remember.
Your math teacher didn't do you wrong. So this is currently a legal list, and it does look pretty decent. Yeah. You know the one thing I feel like it's missing?
55 points. Other than that, what do you
Thanks, John. I was going to say Scout Sentinels.
Yes, we definitely do want Scout Sentinels. And a quick little note I'll make, that 10-man Death Corps of Krieg squad, we've got 10 points of flex in that. That could be Catachan.
That's good to know, because what I would love to do here...
I know.
All right, so...
I know where this is going.
All right. So take your bets in the comments. Death Corps Krieg becomes Catachans.
Yep. We have 65
We have 65. Mm-hmm. That's enough to take a Scout Sentinel and take 5 points and roll it over and turn 5 more Tempestus Scions into a Scout Sentinel.
That is completely true.
Yes.
And that's where this is going.
Alrighty, let's do it.
I knew where this was going. You knew where this was going. That's why I let off to let you know the 10 points were there. I was doing the math and I was like, oh yeah, this is about to happen.
I wish we had slightly more points than that so we could roll
I want a third
over.
Kazarkan squad if I'm being honest, but
I feel like with Double Dorn, that's
Double Dorn, that's a hard ask at the moment.
when you're taking the KFC Double Dorn.
Yep.
All right, what is this?
So 10 Catachans. And the nice part of the Catachans is they get 2 Flamers, which I'm more and more finding that Flamer is actually my favorite guardsman weapon. Because 2 Plasma Guns is 1 hit, and 1 Melta Gun is 0 hits.
Yeah, I mean...
And I was thinking like, oh, but I get them to hit on 2s, and you know what, somehow.
A Flamer does some damage, a Melta Gun does 0 damage. Don't at me how that works.
Flamer does 1 damage. It doesn't matter what you're shooting at. I think you lose the scout by attaching the platoon command squad and Lord Solar, because that's what's happening is we're taking that 10 Catachan with Lord Solar platoon command squad, and that is going to be a good backfield holder that can order just about everything you want.
Yes. Well, I agree that I feel like we want X, we want Y, we want Casterkin, we want this, we want that. I don't see anything to do here. I'll be real with you.
I really want the Dorns to be able to push upfield without immediately getting tagged, or I want anyone who tags you to then have other problems.
Yeah.
I mean, at least you can point some guns from the Dorn down into the thing tagging you.
Then charge.
And the Bulgrin could charge. And like you can do some things. You can drop a Melta Mine off a Kazarkin or something. Like you could find a way around a moderate tag.
I think the flex here, and I think the only real point of flex, is if you go from 12 Bulgrin down to 6, you open up points to get some things that you might want.
That's true.
Casterkin, another Scout Sentinel.
Yeah.
A unit of Catachans in a Chimera.
A Hellhound. There's a lot of different things you could take here. You could also cut 3 Bulgrin and then go to like 3-3-3. And then have, if you cut the other Scion squad, you've cut 80 points and 55. And that's 135, which is enough to take it's easily enough to take another squad in a Chimera package or a Hellhound. Like there are a couple of different ways you can play this still.
Yeah, and there is the Creed Mortar combo because the Platoon Command Squad has a mortar in it.
Correct. Yep. The Platoon Command Squad is going to have a Master Vox, a Vexilla, or a Flag, whatever they call it, Regimental Standard, and a mortar.
And Creed can order that unit
because they join the Catachan Squad. They then gain. They can get the free strat.
I see.
Yep.
Okay.
So Creed doesn't have any friends. Creed is hanging out by herself. She will investigate a signal, and she will sit there ordering your big squad, while the big squad then sends their orders downfield.
Yep, she is purely there to point, to tell the mortar every turn to point at a target and hand you +1 AP against it.
Yep, she's 55 points for that free strat, and then they just like keep sitting on +1 save in case someone walks over there.
Yeah, which is, by the way, a bananas character for 55 points.
Yep, that 55 points, perfectly fine. If you go second against someone, if you're playing against someone with indirect, I think you reserve her, then she arrives at some point, gives her order, makes the strat free on turn 2.
Yeah.
And if in turn 1, if you happen to go first, you just spend the strat the old-fashioned way with Leontis, but then you guarantee that she gets her value at least once. And maybe by that point, your opponent doesn't want to point indirect at Creed.
I'll be honest, how many... I would take a 55-point character that said, every turn pick an enemy unit anywhere on the board and get +1 AP against it.
Yeah, and again, the platoon command... You want to just type mortar on the platoon command squad?
Yes.
Yep. Mortar and good stuff. We'll put it in there. Yep. It's in the platoon command squad. Yeah, mortar, Master Vox.
Mortar.
Okay. Fair enough. Mortar. All caps mortar, the way it should be. Platoon command squad, take mortar. Cool.
Oh, hold on. Mortar.
God. All right, so the mortar goes into platoon command squad, so that we've got a way to dish out the free thingy. From there,
I don't really see anything to change here.
So again, if we're just spitballing the changes, 3 Bulgrin and a Siam squad could be the 3rd Basilisk, or it could be a Hellhound, or it could be a thing. And if you ever free up 10 points, you do get to upgrade the Catachan to a Krieger squad, which I think is significantly better when they start on the table, not in a Chimera.
Yep. And
yeah, you heal D3 models, you get a +1 to hit when you're wounded, which does mean you actually hit a very funny scenario fairly easily where you lose an amount of models to random stuff, their guardsmen, and then you pop out with an order and all of your guns hit on 2s. and you're just like, here's like 2 or 3 melt, and like at that point you can even like replace one of the things in the command squad with a like a special weapon if you really want to. Not the Vox, that has to stay. That one has to stay.
That's the entire reason that we're buying 15 dudes.
Yep.
In the first place is so that Leontis can order at 24.
Yeah, so like you can do cute things like that, and also healing models makes me happy.
Yeah,
and it's a much better skirmishing unit late game because like sometimes killing 15 guys is just actually kind of hard. If they just are +1 save and didn't cover, killing 15 guardsmen on turn 5 is like, oh.
Especially if there's like a Rogaldorn at half health and like a 3-man Bulgrin squad and like other stuff you want to try to kill.
Yeah, and so like, but again, I don't think that is by any means necessary. That's the fun 10 points we spend last.
Yes. I mean, I think if we want to go 12 Bulgrin, I think this is fine. If you want to replace, you can replace any or all of the Bulgrin with another Scout Sentinel, Catechins and Transports, Hellhounds. Any of that kind of performs the same role in a slightly different way.
Yep.
So I would, I'd be totally fine with like replacing the 2 Bulgrin squads with Hellhounds, and then you end up with a bunch of extra points. Drop the Scions, and you end up with like a 3rd Basilisk.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mainly though I just want to have something because the Dorans don't want to just sit back.
Yes, they would like to push.
If they sit back, they are not contributing their toughness or a lot of the line of sight that they can get. So they need to push somewhat.
Not all the way up,
and they don't want to be the first thing pushing. And I don't think the Khazarkan alone should be the things pushing.
So, question: how much is a Hellhound?
125.
Oh, that's a little more expensive than I thought.
Yeah, it's not like you could get it, but doing so is basically a Scion and 3 Bulgrin, or it's
Scion 3 Bulgrin's not a bad way to spend it.
Yeah,
but
it's not. I like a Hellhound. I'm very down to cut the Scions, 3 Bulgrin, get a Hellhound in the list, and then you've got 10 points, and that's just a quick upgrade on the Catechans.
All right. Well, before we move on to the next list, we have a question. What loadout on the Rogaldorns?
Oh, I like the Oppressor Cannon. You can take it a twin-linked battle cannon instead, but one Oppressor Cannon is a great name to read to your opponent. So I take Oppressor Cannon because it's just a bigger gun. It also comes with an autocannon and contributes to the weight of just endless guns that this thing rolls.
Especially with +1 AP, +1 AP, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. 2 multi-meltas on the sponsons. And then you take the pulverizer cannon on the front, and then of course you slap on the free melta guns and stubbers that you can and wherever you do. And you could honestly make an argument for 3 stubbers instead of stubber 2 melta guns, just because then it's just like, here's 18 more shots, and it's just like, dear God, this is just a lot of dice.
An AP2 if you stack both things.
Yep.
But you're probably not going to do that
not
most
on the
of
thing
the
you're
time.
shooting the stubbers at, but it's still just, hey, there's a I don't want to shoot an entire Dorn at that Warp Spider squad. Here, let me just point the 3 stubbers and the there's like one other, and the autocannon at it. And the multi-meltas and the pulverizer and the oppressor cannon all go somewhere else.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good things there.
Yeah, it's a coaxial autocannon. My apologies, it's not an autocannon. It's totally different.
Yeah, quite different.
But yeah, yep. Oppressor, the pulverizer, and melta sponsons is definitely the way to go. You can kind of choose if you want the 2 front melta guns or the 2 heavy stubbers. I don't have a strong opinion on it actually. Meltas are the ones that I built mine with, so that's what I always run. But
fair enough.
You know what? It is free and it is a lot of shots, so I can really see the stub argument too.
Yeah, you basically take the tank if you have the melta guns and you jam them in your opponent's door hole.
Yeah, there you go. I think that's a pretty solid. I think we're going double door, and I think that's quite a solid guard list. I really have liked the Bulgrin lately. And so I really want to get Bulgrin in this list to push in front of it, but I say we send it.
Bulgrin are obnoxious.
Yeah.
They are.
Heck yeah, brother.
Yeah, they're pretty deeply obnoxious to try to kill, so I like that. All right, next up, we've got Bremmy's sisters.
Okay.
I don't think we've had sisters on for a good couple months. So if you want to read out what's in the list, I will check and see.
100%.
If
as you'd expect, we are doing the totally not hallowed Martyrs Lady attachment. Then we've got Morven Vol. We've got a Dialogus. God, she's cheap. A Palatine with the Blade of St. Eleanor, and a Magifier with Ladies of Faith. 2 units of 10 Battle Sisters with as many Meltas and the good weapons as you can find. 10 Dominions with Meltas. Then an Immolator with multi-melta, 2 Rhinos, 20 Arco Flagellants, never really been sure on that. Flagellants. 2 Crusaders, which are 25 points for 2, right? And then,
yeah, probably.
3 Paragons, presumably with Meltas and like 1 mace, some swords, 2 Castigators, 5 Seraphim, 5 Zephyrim, 5 Retributors with max Meltas, and a Calidus Assassin.
I think that's an artifact from Nick's list a bit back where he was like, 2x2 Crusaders, 50 points.
Yeah.
And it got put in wrong.
All good.
So Bremy says, this is what I'm considering for my first ever tournament next month.
Very exciting, Bremy.
Very exciting. So they are 25 points, but let me pull up the list. All right. Sisters of Battle. So here's the deal. I think looking at this list, I think there's some things that I want in it.
Is it just more stuff?
Well, yes. It's always going to be more stuff, but what I want is I want some characters, specific ones, or at least one specific one.
Which one you got in mind?
Celestine.
Okay.
I want Celestine, and I also want the Triumph, but that one is okay if you don't want to include it.
Yeah.
Celestine, I think, is a really, really good thing for Sisters because they don't really have a unit that does what Celestine does.
I think Celestine's great. No objection there.
Yeah. What she does is she runs around and skirmishes by herself, although you could, I guess, you could attach her to Zephyrim or Seraphim or something.
I actually liked 5 Seraphim a lot with her.
It's good. It's totally fine.
It ends up being Celestine by herself in 1 turn anyways, but you get a quick Fire and Fade on the way in.
Yeah. It's just totally fine. But she can also just operate solo, run around, steal home objectives, like kill skirmishing units, and just be really annoying to kill. Because what you do is when your opponent shoots at Celestine, you pull one. The first wound is allocated to the Gemini.
Yep.
And then because you're not joined to a unit, you can allocate the attacks to Celestine.
Correct.
And while there is a Gemini alive, Celestine has a 4 Feel No Pain.
Pretty good.
So you tank the attacks, and then on your turn, you just res the Gemini and get stuck back in.
Yep.
So, big fan of Celestine. She's
Fully
cheap.
agreed.
I want her.
Fully agreed. Celestine's great. Things in here, because there's a couple things in here that I would like as well, and there's some things that feel not as necessary. So, the Calidus, I don't think is necessary in Sisters. Oh, Calidus is cool, so I never mind having one. Very take it or leave it in Sisters. It's not necessary.
I would also agree.
Yeah. I really want a couple more of the flying units, Seraphim and Zephyrim. They're such good value. I also very much, just like you, I want to see Celestine in the list. Those are the main things I want. I want to see Celestine, more Fly Girls. I wouldn't mind if we were able to sneak, one extra like Immolator or Castigator in the list, but that may be a bit much of an ask. And there's a couple things that don't feel like they're necessary here.
So what are you thinking? What doesn't feel necessary?
So I'm struggling to see the benefit of the Dominions, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I assume the game plan here is that they start either split in... My guess is they start split in the Immolator with 4 Meltas, and then they give the Immolator Scout.
Yeah.
And the Immolator scouts and tries to do things.
Yeah, I feel though, if I'm being honest, like the Immolator, because there's one Immolator which is super useful for splitting off a 10 strong girl squad into a 5 strong girl squad. I feel like the Immolator is better off splitting a Battle Sister unit. We also, for what it's worth, we have 3 characters, and I'm not sure what they're joining at the moment. 2 of them I know.
The Palatine, the Magifier?
I believe the Palatine
and the Dialogus.
I actually was wondering if it was the Imagifier or the because I'm guessing the Imagifier goes to the Battle Sister squad because it gives them a 4 Invuln, and then they just chill, and it's just like, hey, this is annoying. And then yeah, it's probably the Dialogus and the Palatine. Palatine gives unit lethal. Dialogus turns a Miracle Vice into a 6, and so that unit just becomes a good funnel for Miracle Vice.
For a Miracle Die, without the Triumph, you can't use more than 1 Miracle Die. Even with the Triumph, you can use 2.
Yeah.
But I would say without that combo, I don't love the Dialogus Palatine combo as much.
Yeah, my thought is the Palatine's in there anyways because she's great.
She's great.
And at that point, yeah, Dialogus isn't like particularly good, but it's 30 points.
Is 30 points.
30 points.
But if 30 points is the barrier between you getting what you want and not getting what you want, then I'm willing to drop the Dialogus.
I agree completely. If we write a 20, 30 point list, we will reconsider her, but 30 points, she's so cheap.
She is cheap. She also doesn't do very much.
30 points.
But she also doesn't do
all
anything.
She does is she's a different kind of Miracle Ice manipulation because we don't have a Triumph in this list to get to sneak a couple 6s on people. You get to re-roll Miracle Vice near the Imagifier for, I think, for losing units. And then
She gives the unit a 4-pin vuln.
She gives you a 4-pin vuln. And then you just have, like, your bad dice just get funneled into the Dialogus, who is going to make a multi-melta wound every time the unit activates.
Yep, or be damage 6 or whatever.
Something, yeah. You roll the first one, and if it gets through, 6 damage. And if it doesn't get through, you just immediately wound the second one. Yeah. The Dialogus can go with the Retributors as well, which is, I guess, is probably where it's going, just to, like, have a 30-point thing to do a 6, but it's only 1 dice. So again, 30 points is like not necessary. And without lethal hits, 1 dice doesn't actually take you as far.
I mean, yeah, I don't love her even for 30. And the Imagifier at 60 feels a little steep.
She's 60 because she has the enhancement.
She is 60 because she has Litanies of Faith.
I actually really liked just 10 girls have a 4-pin vuln, and it's the Palatine squad, because it just lets the Palatine chop a little longer.
The Imagifier can go with a Palatine?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
In a Battle Sister squad, you can join a Canoness or a Palatine with any of the normal elite characters.
Yeah, or Junith if you wanted to do that for whatever reason.
Yeah. Super Canoness. So, Dominions, I'm not really sure what they're doing there.
I think what they're doing is getting cut.
That's probably true.
Yes. I think that the last thing you want to do as sisters is to ball up about 200 points to your army and throw it into your opponent early.
Yeah.
Unsupported sisters are not very good.
Generally agreed.
So you want a bunch of units all operating together.
Okay.
So I think one unit that's looking to go out and do stuff by itself, not the best. So
Okay.
I personally...
So Dominions, gone. I don't have an objection to that. It's sad because I like them, but they're gone.
I remember when Dominions were real good.
I do.
Yeah, back in like 6th edition.
They were awesome in 9th at a certain point.
Fair.
On a super range with 10 of them. It was awesome. Stormbolters.
Yeah, listen, I remember the days with 20 Retributors. I played that to a couple events.
Back in my day, we still had dev wounds for 1 CP. It was awesome.
That sounds really good.
Yeah.
All right, so that frees up some points.
Yes, I think the Calidus is going to end up getting cut, and it's a good enough unit that we could wait and cut it later, but I think we just know the writing's on the wall here. I like the Calidus. I don't think Sisters are an army that needs a lone operative.
No, and they also don't need a cheap unit to go around the board. You have those.
Yeah, let's just leave that Calidus a little bit down. We might slide her in, but I'm assuming she's gone.
No, that is about to turn into another unit when I like rewrite the name.
So that's 200 points that we just freed up.
Yes.
Which we can get some units back for that. Again, Celestine is I think where we start. Let's just put her in because I think we're in agreement that Celestine is very good.
Yes.
And what is she? I have no idea how much points. Is she like?
I believe she's 135.
135. 135 is not an unreasonable cost.
No. Saint Celestine is ridiculous. She's 135.
That is points I'm willing to spend.
Yes. She just is really annoying to deal with. She's tough to kill. She comes back to life. She's great.
Yep.
So we got that. I need to get rid of.
We still have 65 points to play with, but we're also likely making some other changes. What do you think about the rest of this? So we've got the big Volagon brick, which I do like a lot.
I like the Volgon brick too.
I'm a big fan of Castigators as well.
Yeah. I would personally run the Volgon brick if I were playing Sisters.
I fully agree. I've played a couple games with Sisters post-September, and I've got to say I've really liked the Volagon unit every time it's hit the table.
Just having a unit,
One unit
rapid ingress, comes in and just bowling balls its way through a side of the board.
It's pretty awesome. So, we don't have a lot of flex in this list at the moment. We're kind of doing two things. We're doing the tanks and the transports at the same time. And we could leave it as a split. Do you want to lean harder into one side or the other, like from where we are? Because we've got 65 points, right? We could just add 5 flag girls and say, cool, list done. But
5 Zephs, yeah.
like we can also play a little more.
We don't necessarily have to do that. What is it that you want in here? Do you want another Castigator? Do you want another Immolator?
I want another Immolator, if I'm being honest.
So what are you looking to split with the Immolator?
I'm looking to split another Battle Sister squad.
So you end up with a 5-man with the Palatine? Or 5?
No. I want 30 Battle Sisters.
I see. I think that might be asking a bit much.
It might be.
Because that is another couple hundred points.
It's another 215.
Yeah.
We have 65 free at the moment, so we'd have to cut some real things.
I am just going to...
You don't like the Dialogus? That's fine.
The Dialogus only costs 30, but in exchange for costing 30, she doesn't do anything. So I'm not a big fan of spending 30 on nothing.
That is 95 points to play with now. So I think what the character is looking like right now is we have Celestine, who could be solo. She can join either of the Fly Girl units, but I think she's actually quite fine solo.
I like her solo.
Yep, we've got a Vologon unit, and then we have Palatine and a Magifier, both attached to a 10 Battle Sister squad. I hate to say it, I think the Retributors are sticking out a little bit here, because you're going to use the Immolator to split the other 10 Battle Sister squad. And then you can turn one, get the Retributors in, drive around.
Or you just don't. I think if you don't split the Battle Sisters, we go down to 1 unit of Battle Sisters.
I agree. I think 10 Battle Sisters for 100 points is not worth it without characters.
We are close. We're quite close to cutting 10 Battle Sisters, getting 5 more Retributors, and a second Immolator. We're close. I think we are 1 Crusader squad away.
I was going for less Retributors, not more.
I understand that. But if you're taking Retributor Immolators to like hop out, shoot, reroll wounds, shoot with the multi-meltas, do that, we are very close to taking a second unit of that.
Because we are. I was just gonna say that, like, I feel like a Battle Sister squad. Because like I was just thinking, like, we cut the Retributors, and then we're very close to another Battle Sister squad in Immolator.
Yeah, I think.
Right, we have 95 points at the moment.
Yes,
which means
we cut the Retributors. We have 200.
Yeah, and then it's 215 for that package, which would basically be.
I just don't know if do we need a third Battle Sister unit?
No, not necessarily.
Like, we're taking one with the Palatine and the Imagifier because the Palatine's cool and we want the Palatine to get some hype girls. But is the Imagifier worth it there?
So it's the Litanies of Faith is, I believe, reroll a Miracle Ice in your command phase, but it rerolls any one of your active ones. So you reroll them when they get generated to within 12 of the Imagifier for people dying, and then you can funnel some of the bad ones through Battle Sister using their the cherubs, and then I think the Litany lets you reroll one.
The Litany lets you, at the end of your command phase, reroll a miracle die from your miracle die pool, and you return it with a new result. And if the bearer has lost 1 or more wounds or is leading unit that's below half strength, you can reroll 3.
Yep.
Which is cute, but it is 60 points.
Yeah, I was honestly going to say we could cut the enhancement and just have an, because like how much is an Imagifier with no enhancement?
35.
35 points to give the unit a 4 up and feels good.
It certainly does. It certainly does. Yeah, I would rather have Litanies feels.
I'd rather keep it the Crusader squad than Litanies.
Yeah.
Like, once we say that those are both 25 points, I'd rather have that. And our Miracle Ice plan now is Fire Hose, not quality. And you feed your terrible ones into bolter shots on Battle Sister squads that have a cherub, and you just try to feed them through the cherub machine as fast as possible.
Yep. You also discard them to make the Palatine cool in combat. If you want to do good stuff with Miracle Dice, I think you're taking, at that point, you're taking the Triumph.
Agreed.
And I personally quite like the Triumph. I think the Triumph is great.
It's worth taking.
For 125?
125.
That's a ridiculous stat line. But if we're not going in that direction, and it's totally fine if we're not, I do think you fire hose them out.
So
you could even take Saintly Example just to, when the character is destroyed, get D3 additional.
That's where that was going, yeah.
I mean,
it's very cheap.
It's 10 points, yeah.
It's very cheap.
But it's only when that model is killed.
Yeah.
But if we have 10 points left, I'm not against it.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Litanies of Faith and just get rid of it.
I think that's the right move. So that means that our 95 points just turned into 120.
That's right.
So we just got 20 out of that. And now if we cut the Retributors, we'd be at 225.
We could also just staple a second Immolator in here if we have 120.
We really could.
And
I like Immolators.
I like Immolators too. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and do that right now.
Yep. I think that's very reasonable. I think an extra Immolator is ending up in this almost no matter what.
Immolator good. Just a bunch of random multi-melta shots that are twin linked, and then, oh, look at that. One went through 6 damage.
Yep.
Thank you.
Maybe even 8.
Maybe even 8.
Yeah. And let's look at this from a character perspective. We have 4 characters at the moment, so Fixed Assassinate is not crazy at the moment.
It's a 20 because Celestine comes back, and then also characters can come back. But here's the thing. You are technically giving up a max on Assassinate.
It's hard to get.
It's hard to get, and your opponent has to commit to it before the game starts.
Yep.
And that means that you can feel free to, like, make sure that Celestine doesn't do anything super risky. Maybe goes and fights for objectives that are very safe.
Yeah, on turn like 3 and 4, she's like pokes around to flank the objective.
And then if your opponent kills the rest of your army, then they get like what, a 12?
Yeah.
If you just keep the Palatine and Magifier unit from doing anything insane, then they have to kill Celestine, not easy. They have to kill Vol, not easy. They have to kill Palatine and Magifier behind 10 Battlesisters with 4 Invul, and it's up to you whether you want to use it or not.
Yeah.
I think that Assassinate is totally fine.
Yeah.
Bring it down, I also think is totally fine because, you know, the tanks your opponent has to get to. If your opponent takes Bring It Down, Rhinos are worth 2?
They're worth 3 each.
3, Immolators are worth 3, Castigos are worth 3?
Yep, so that's 18, and then you've got the Volagon unit, which is worth 8.
Okay, so if they get the Volgon unit, something that they can't guarantee they're going to do,
Yep.
I think fixed is totally fine.
Yeah, I think it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So
We could even add more characters without me feeling terrible about
yeah,
it.
we have room for one more character before I feel bad about Assassinate.
Yeah.
We're not there yet. So looking at this, I still wanted to jam more cheap units in, just to, like, keep things in front of the Cascaders. We haven't talked about the Cascaders much, but I do want to keep them in because I like having a long-range, pretty decent shooting option.
Yep,
It's not crazy, but it's pretty good.
They have the Battle Cannon,
Yes.
and the Battle Cannon is just by far the best one.
Yep, it's 10 minus 1 flat 3 ignores cover.
And rerolls hits against monsters and vehicles.
Yep.
It's a hell of a profile. Yeah, so it's really good here. We have 5 points remaining. The only thing I really want in the list is more Zephyrum, more
Yes.
Seraphim.
Yes.
Here's the issue.
You have like 10 points at the moment?
Yeah, it would have to be 5 Retributors, which have already been factored into going in an Immolator.
Yep.
So this is not like a simple, let's cut those and add stuff in. So the question is, what do we cut from this list in order to get more Zephyrum and Seraphim? And I don't know the answer.
I don't see much to cut.
I don't see much to cut. Honestly, the thing that's coming to my mind, if we did want to cut something, would be 10 Arcoflagellants in a Rhino. And that would give us enough points to get like 2 units of Seraphim, Zephyrum. I'm not into that, really.
I'm not convinced. I think 1 Arcoflagellant is the wrong number.
I think 1 Arcoflagellant is the wrong number, for sure.
I can hear an argument for 0. 2 is probably best.
2, I think, is best.
3, I can hear an argument for.
I can hear an argument for 3. I think 3 is overkill, but it's like, it's good. It just is like, oh, maybe that's a little too much. I think 2 is where it's at. I don't really see anything to change here.
No, I think anything else is fundamentally rewriting the list. I actually quite like right now. And I think this is 1995.
Yep.
And so we don't get another enhancement on the Magifier, but I think that's okay.
I mean, we could take 5 Seraphim and turn them into Zephyrum. Don't really want to do that.
And I like having at least 1 Fire and Fade.
We could do the thing where we turn 5 Retributors into 10 Battle Sisters, and that gives us 5 more points. That's kind of up to you, how many models you have.
For what it's worth, I actually do prefer that.
Yeah,
But it's not crazy.
We can do it.
Yep. Boop. And that's just because you still got good cherub stuff.
Oh, looks like
Oop, our OBS.
our connection died for a second. Let us know how that...
Yep, let us know if we're still here.
Yeah, it'd be sad if we
Type
weren't.
something in the chat real quick, just in case. All right. Anyways,
Anyways.
yeah, I'm quite happy with this list as is. I think. Hey, we're back.
We're back.
I think I prefer the Battle Sister to the Retributor Squad, just because it's less Melta coming out of the Immolator, but this is still more of a damage by committee than it is a single punch.
It's one multi-Melta and Melta that rerolls wounds. One of them goes through, 6 damage. Immolator shoots, reroll wounds, 5 damage, right? Like, oh, look, tank's dead to Immolators and Battle Sisters.
Yeah, like you can still make it happen. And so I think it's perfectly fine, and then you get an extra unit to play with.
Sweet.
But I think for the record, you could, if you're, I know, Bremmy's also coming up in their first tournament. If you have Retributors, I think it's very much a side grade swap. If you are painting Retributors already, no problem, send the Retributors.
Yep.
No problem with that at all.
That could just be 5 Retributors, no Saintly Example. Saintly Example is not even close to required.
No, it's nice. It's very good for 10 points. But
Nice to have, but yeah.
if we were 1995, we weren't going to cut something and put it in.
Yep, so that's...
And then I think that's it for the Sisters list. I like it.
All right, last up, we've got Grey Knights. Before we do that, I think we should cover some of these super chats.
Absolutely.
So first up is Ryan G with a $5 super chat. says Bulgrin are oddly annoying for Nids to deal with. Their damage reduction means you'll never kill one model with your flat 3 damage.
That is true and annoying.
Yes.
Completely true. And yeah, Bulgrin are awesome.
And then Hytorian with a £5 super chat says, how would the meta be if you couldn't take named characters? Seems like every good list has one or more.
I think the meta would get shifted very heavily because certain armies suffer for that and certain armies don't.
Yes.
Like, some armies that I think are very good right now really rely on their named characters. Some armies, I think, have good named characters but can do something else. Necrons have great epic heroes. I think they can do something else. I think you could cut every epic hero out of a Necron list and it would be worse for it, but it wouldn't be terrible.
Be significantly worse.
Yeah, your Nightbringer and Void Dragon become the T-Catan. You're still taking the Mancers.
Yeah. Something like World Eaters, where you can't take Angron, Lord Invocatus, or Karn. It's like there's
so few options left.
There's like one option. There's 2 options, right? Yeah. Like it just...
Yeah, you have more epic heroes than non-epic heroes.
Yeah, and the non-epic heroes are substantially worse, and the epic heroes do something non-replaceable.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, it would be a weird toss-up. And you know what? It can be fun for like a one-off thing to set like an interesting role like, no epic heroes. Because, everyone's forging their own narrative with their own personal champions leading the fray. But it would cause an unstable meta. T-Suns would also suffer.
Yes, T-Suns are very much the Magnus show.
Magnus accessories. Yeah.
Yeah, and without the Magnus, you can't really have Magnus accessories.
No Ahriman either.
No Ahriman. I mean, Ahriman is replaceable.
Yeah, but he's
Magnus
pretty
is
good.
not.
Magnus is not.
Magnus is not.
Tyranids, totally fine.
Space Marines, totally fine.
Yep.
The Ultramarines Vanguard would suffer, but the Black Templars list would keep on chugging. You just replace Albrecht.
Yeah, with another good combat character, call it a day.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there are some some armies that suffer more than others.
It'd be interesting.
All right. Grey Knights from FTBA, which stands for something, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right, so if you wouldn't mind reading out what's in the list.
Absolutely. So this Grey Knight Strike Force detachment has a brother captain with the Sigil of Exigence, which is the teleport if you shoot me in one, I believe.
Yeah.
3 Brotherhood Librarians, and those are my wonderful Mortal Wound boys. Caldor Drago himself, God, he's 125.
He's so good, dude.
Brotherhood Tech Marine, that's interesting.
Yeah,
10 Terminators, 5 strikes, 10 paladins, 2 dread knights.
Yes. So going over the notes FTBA has, says looking at this list because I only have 2 dread knights.
Okay, fair.
Grandmaster gets downgraded to a brother captain for points. Hopefully the Casino Mortal Wound Bomb addresses targets with modifiers. Really gives up Assassinate, but playing an RTT and small 40-ish person GTs max. What else could I fill the gap with if I'm committed to 2 Brick, 2 Nemesis Dread Knight, if it's not a suicidal ball of Libby's?
So 2 bricks of Terminators.
Which I like.
2 Dread Knights.
Which I like.
I prefer 3, but we're at 2, and so 2 is what we got.
I also very much prefer 3.
We're not cutting the 2.
I think they are kind of a critical mass sort of unit where the more you have, the more they synergize with each other. But that is okay. I think 2 is still fine. You can still make 2 work.
2 is good. 3 is better. 2 is good.
I like strikes. I want 1 unit of strikes in every Grey Knight list because...
Sticky school.
Sticky objectives. And what'll happen is you want to pull your units off the board, see what the cards dictate, see where, what's going on, and then deep strike them back down. Sometimes in the same spot, but you want to see what the cards are. You want to see where the board state is.
Yeah.
So if you pull your units off the board, you won't score your primary. So if strikes sticky the objectives, you can pull your units off the board with impunity, drop them back down, and that keeps that economy going. Strikes, real good. Caldor Drago, no issues there. He's insane. Yeah. The brother captain does want to be a grandmaster.
Yeah, we do want to try to find those points if we can, because the ignore mods is still very good, and I don't trust the Casino Mortal Wounds to have to go into the thing that's the mod.
Catan are just going to laugh that off.
Yeah, you're not going to kill it, and then that's bad.
Yeah, you're going to do like seven damage through the Feel No Pain. They're going to be like, damn, that hurts. Anyway, heal for 2d3, and then you're going to do like another 7, and it's still going to be alive, and it heals for another 2d3, and now you don't have any Libbies anymore.
Hate that.
Yeah.
So we're not changing the fact that there are 2 Terminator bricks, and I think that's fine. I think the 2 Terminator bricks are great.
I love those units.
We're keeping the 2 Dread Knights. So what we're flexing with is the character choice.
Yeah, let me just pull out the stuff that I think is changeable.
The Tech Marine feels the most changeable. But also he's, 60 points, and there's not a lot of 60-point granite units, I acknowledge.
I'm just going to go ahead and put in a Grandmaster because I was
We're gonna find those points later, but they are going there.
I was very impressed with the Grandmaster with Sigil in Paladins when I played it.
Sure.
It's just great.
How many points does that take him to?
That takes him, I believe, to 130.
Oh, so it's a 10-point difference?
Or no, I think it's a 5-point difference. Yeah, Sigil is 30. It's a 5-point difference.
Oh, okay.
It takes him to 125.
So yeah, we're going to find those 5 points somewhere.
Sigil of Exigence is my pick for best enhancement in the entire game.
It's got to be up there.
Yeah.
Here's a question. With these Brotherhood Librarians,
Yes.
that's 390 points.
Yes, all told.
I know that one of the things stated here was 2 bricks. Was that a no more or less? Or was that like...
You know what I know.
Okay. So, what I'm honestly looking at is, what about like a... I kind of want like a... I always want to know I always want to ask what Crow and Purifiers do, because they're dope.
They do cool stuff. And in fact, I kind of like them in this list. So let's take a look at Tech Marine and just see if there's anything in there that I missed last time.
Is he still like a command phase buff? Is it not when you want to be giving buffs?
Yeah, it's a command phase buff. At least the D3 heal and the +1 to hit are separated. You can target one unit with one unit with the other.
But are they both command phase?
They're both command phase, which is not awesome.
The reason we don't like that is that Grey Knights spend a non-zero amount of time teleporting. And if they're teleporting, they're not anywhere during the command phase. And so if you teleport a Dread Knight, which is often a thing they want to do, then you're not getting the healing and buff abilities from the Tech Marine, because you don't want to keep them on the table for it.
Yes, I think solo librarians are not really where it's at. The reason I feel like that is because they're one shot, take 4 mortals, and then die. They're not durable. If they're in Terminators or Paladins or something, they are fairly durable, but those slots are taken up with Drago and the Grandmaster, who I think are better.
I would agree.
So the librarians doing 4 mortal wounds and dying is not really worth it, in my opinion.
I could see like a librarian in 5-man approach, but 1 librarian isn't doing anything crazy.
Yes.
And 3 librarians in 3 5-mans is costing many points.
A lot of points.
Yeah.
A lot of points. That is 330 points for 5 dudes plus a librarian, which is a lot. Or sorry, 320. All right, so I'm just going to get rid of these wholesale.
Yeah, I think that they're gone.
Yes.
I'm fully on board with that.
I've never really, God.
I think that's good right there. We can see everything. Nope.
There we go.
Yes.
There we go.
All right.
I've never really vibed with the librarians, regardless, because outside of the mortal wounds, they don't do a single thing. And that feels like a lot for 110.
Yeah, until you play Thousand Suns, then they're amazing.
Then they're amazing, but like...
you have to get there first.
You have to get there first. So let's talk about...
Purifiers. I want to hear about this.
Okay, so Crow.
Yes. So
let's talk about Purifiers first. Purifiers can get 4 special weapons. You don't necessarily have to if you don't want to give up your melee weapons.
Good option, though.
They each come with a Stormbolter or an Incinerator, right? And then they have a Psychic Power. The Psychic Power is a gun, and the gun just shoots you. It is 1 shot each at 4/1/1 ignores cover, anti-infantry 2+.
It's 1 shot each?
It's 1 shot each.
Oh, is Crow what?
Crow makes them 2 shots each.
Okay, there we go. I was like, I thought they were 2.
Yeah. No, so Purifiers, they're 130 points for 5, 260 for 10. They are exactly the same in melee as Strikes, which is 3 attacks, hitting on 3s at 622.
A good profile.
It's a decent profile. It's a
decent profile. That's
a
good profile.
When we're all said and done, we're going to be at like 300 and change points.
Yeah,
so
it better be.
A unit like that typically hits a little harder, but we have the shooting.
This man's got power more privilege.
I know. So ranged weapons, yes. So it is Purifying Flame, 1 shot, 18-inch range. At 4/1/1, anti-infantry 2+, ignores cover, and psychic. And then you can get 4 special weapons.
So Crow obviously buffs them by virtue of better shots. Does he do anything else for the unit, or is he just double the shot count and a character that hits hard?
He is the only character who can join the unit.
Yeah.
And he adds 1 to the attacks characteristic of Purifying Flame, and he himself is a 3-shot Purifying Flame, so it goes to 4.
Got it. So he has Purifying Flame and he gets the buff, so it goes to 4.
He has a 3-shot Purifying Flame, so the total goes from 10 shots from the unit from Purifying Flame to 24.
Okay.
Which is a lot. And then once per turn, when he fails a saving throw, you change it to damage 0. And it's the first time. You don't get to choose.
Got it. But it's his.
It's his personal one.
Okay.
He, in melee, is a little scary. He has precision natively, 5 attacks at 622 dev wounds.
Okay.
And he's only 75 points.
That's his part of the equation is cheap, but what he's 75 and the purifiers are 150 for 5?
130. So 260 for, they used to be 150.
So 335?
335. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's good, weirdly enough, into things like Wraiths, where the one Technomancer in the unit gives the unit the infantry keyword.
Unlucky.
It's just bah, 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 bah. Yeah, Crow's Flame is ballistic skill 2, but what you're going to do is you're going to teleport them and you're going to spend 1 CP to make all of their guns plus 1 ballistic skill.
You're just going to light something up.
Or you advance and use the strat and you get assault and do the same thing, so they all hit on 2s. It's a decent unit. It's never found its way into my list because it's an awkward breakpoint.
Yeah,
It's not a bad unit. It's just for 335. It is too many points. Like it's easy enough to get that unit to a Terminator squad.
Yep.
Or it's more points than I have remaining. I never have 330 and I'm like, what do I need to use it for? Except here.
Except here we do.
Except here we do.
The only other thing that I would want in this list is a Redeemer, because I love those. But it's not needed for mobility. It's just to be a big flamer boy that pushes up the table.
Yeah.
Which I love. But there's also no one to naturally go in it, and a Redeemer plus a squad is going to cost more than I think than what we actually have left. It would be like a Redeemer and 5 strikes fits, and that's not worth it.
No.
All right. So
Crow's weapon is not psychic, so he can actually kill enemy librarians.
fantastic. So I like that Purifier unit.
I like the Purifier unit too. I think it's worth taking a look at. So I'm going to just drop it in. I think that is going to use up most, if not all, of our remaining points.
By my count, that'll drop us to 50 points remaining.
That is like a unit of Voidsman.
That's exactly where I'm going with that, yeah. Maybe Henchman, who knows?
I like Voidsman slightly more.
I like the Henchman more.
Well,
The second wound has been dope.
yeah. What am I doing? Purifiers. So Purifiers. And then 10 of them.
Boop, boop.
260.
Yep. We got Brother Crow as well.
And then Castle and Crow. If I could give Purifiers Sigil, I would be...
I'm sure you would.
I would be a big fan of that.
But you can't.
But I can't.
So, 50 points left. Yeah, I think you're just adding. Yeah.
I like the advanced fallback shoot charge on a unit that flat advances 6. Yeah, Begawad, that was our teammate. Our teammate on Team USA, Eric Forsman.
Yep, it's cool. I think it synergizes more with his list than it would here.
Yes, I definitely think so. He's looking to overwhelm you with vehicle hauls. And this isn't looking to do that. This is looking to play the standard triple brick game of really pacing the game out and looking to punish people for overextending and playing the points, playing the game on the board. I do think for 50 points, it's either Henchman or Voidsman.
Does not matter. Whichever one you have the models for, because in 5 out of 6 games, they're going to be doing the same thing without anyone noticing the difference.
Yes. So,
Henchman / Voidsman for 50. Whichever one you want.
They're both good.
Yeah.
I usually like to buy Voidsman if I have the extra points remaining, just for the extra model to screen out, the extra point of armor.
There's good value.
It's great. But Henchman for 40, very good. So it's up to you. But this list looks pretty tight.
Yeah.
Right? It's a triple brick list where you, instead of having nothing left afterwards, you squeezed in 2 Dread Knights, which is not nothing.
Yeah, no, I like that. And yeah, you did kind of downgrade a Terminator brick to Purifiers, but you get 2 Dread Knights in there, and that is significant.
Yes. So, yeah, big fan of this. I think this is, there's basically a sliding scale in Grey Knights.
Yeah.
There's the triple brick list all the way at one end. It's like 3 bricks, 3 units of strikes. That's your list. It is very good.
Yep.
Then there's a sliding scale. How many Dread Knights do you add to it until you end up with Eric Forsman's list that ends up with 3 Dread Knights, 3 Dread Knight Grandmasters, and then he took a Land Raider Redeemer, and he took 3 Halverins. And that list is also pretty scary. Yeah. And anywhere on that spectrum is somewhere you can end up. So you can have 1 brick and like 5 Dread Knights, 6 Dread Knights. You can have 2 bricks and 4, which is my preferred. 2 bricks and 4 Dread Knights I think is really good. you end up anywhere on that scale. So this, I think, is an interesting spot on the scale, which is just to the right of the triple brick list, because we've sacrificed some of the strikes and downgraded Terminator Squad, but we get 2 Dread Knights, and I think that's interesting.
I think so.
All right, so we have some super chats before we wrap up.
Absolutely.
We've got Begawow 1781, $5 super chat, says, headed to my first GT of 10th edition next weekend. Any advice for NIDS on Purge the Foe? Running invasion monsters, 3 Exocrines, 3 Haruspecs, 2 Maleceptors, no one eye.
Cool. So presumably that means no old one eye, not just auto-correcting ol into no. But Begawow. I think that even though NIDS don't love Purge of the Foe, I think they're actually perfectly capable of playing it. I think all that Purge of the Foe does is it makes you be a lot more careful with your Biobor placement. You're not going to get 5 turns of your opponent not getting kill more. You're not getting 5. But if you're careful with your Spore Mine placement, instead of going for big homers downfield, I think it's fine to just actually use the Spore Mines to screen out your backfield. Like on Purge the Foe, I still make a Spore Mine. Sometimes I'll shoot if there's just nowhere to go, and I won't just throw out a Spore Mine for the sake of it. But I think the big thing is actually that the monsters are perfectly fine on Purge the Foe.
Yes.
And it's just that you don't want the Biovore to accidentally give your opponent 4 points on a turn where they weren't going to kill anything. The difference between your opponent getting 2 or 3 kills is not nearly as big as 0 and 1, because you might still be able to tie or overcome that. You'll have the knowledge of it, who's going first, when you create a Spore Mine. On Purge of the Foe, I just use my Spore Mines to screen out my own corners. I just launch them to the side in a place where I don't have any cards drawn at the moment and say, well, if I ever draw Investigate Signals, it'll already be there, and no one's going to deep strike behind this wall in the corner. And that's fine.
Yep.
And that just frees up a lone operative from screening duty to be a little more forward, because the lone operative is going to be harder to take out than a Spore Mine when my opponent is chasing kills.
Yep. Just when you send your Spore Mine, do it with intention. Don't just do it to do it.
Yeah, it's very tempting to just make a Spore Mine because it's free. But on Purge of the Foe, I'm a little more cautious.
Yeah, you don't have to do it, right? You're not forced to. So, all right. Stephen Whittam, $10 super chat, says, in the Firestorm, would you rather have a second Scout Squad, a combi weapon lieutenant, or Inquisitor, Henchies, and +3 strength on the aggressor captain?
I would rather have the Scouts or the Lieutenant, almost certainly.
Yep, that's where I would probably say the combi weapon LT, who I think is pretty good.
Yeah, if you don't have a lone op in the list, one lone op is probably worth the time.
Yeah, if you already have one, well, then you're probably not thinking about adding a combi weapon LT, because it's probably the best one. It's close.
The Callus is better.
It's close.
No.
I think it's close.
The combi lieutenant is not a Callus.
He is 70.790,
yeah,
which is nice.
That's true. But I think if your list is just made of twin linked, if you've got rerolls to wound all over this place, maybe that LT could be a Scout Squad instead. But if your list is literally anything besides twin linked top to bottom, you probably do the combi lieutenant from what we know of Firestorm.
Yes, and that's probably where you go. The first 2 options are like good skirmish units.
Yeah.
And the third option are bad skirmish units.
Yeah, I like the Scout Squad definitely above the Henchman and +3 strength.
Yes. Yep.
All right. I think that's all our super shots.
That's everything for today.
We have fixed the lists. Oh my goodness, there's one more.
All right, so Richard Hagg, $5 super chat, says, if you have a beautiful Triumph, which I'm assuming that they do, thank you for your first time super chat, we appreciate having you here. What's the best package to send up the board with?
5 Battle Sisters.
Or nothing. Nothing is also fine too. The Triumph brings her own cohort.
Yeah, I think the Triumph is awesome. I really do. Half the reason I didn't recommend it in the last list was because they were getting ready for their first tournament. That's a hard time to paint the Triumph.
Yes, Celestine I think is worth the added work.
But once you have a beautiful Triumph, she is well worth getting on the table. And I like to keep the option open to attach her to 5 Battle Sisters, but I will freely acknowledge you don't have to.
I think you do that if you're playing into like guard or something with a lot of indirect.
Sure, yeah.
Just to keep her safe. But something that people don't think of a lot is that just because something is a leader does not mean it has to join a unit.
Like Creed?
Like Creed. Another big one I'm thinking of is the Juggernaut Lords and Invocatus, the Juggernaut Lord and Invocatus in World Leaders. the amount of times people ask me, hey, what unit does it join? Oh, none of them. Because they're just a good unit by themselves. They don't actually have to join anything. It's kind of the same with Triumph.
Yeah, Triumph is auras. She doesn't lead for effect. She leads to have 5 girls catch bullets.
Yep.
Which is valuable if your opponent has something that scares the Triumph. But yeah, I think you just make sure in list creation you have the ability to lead something, but when you get to the table, know that it's not mandatory.
Yes.
All right.
CD. Thank you for the $5 super chat. It says one more for the memes. A $5 super chat for your 5th super chat on the live stream.
Woohoo.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate you. All right, that is going to wrap us up for today. As always, if you like the video, make sure you like the video, share with your friends, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Let us know what you think of the lists, of the memes, and of Jack's wonderful shirt. All right, we'll catch you next time, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.